So I got a bunch of this trash and I'm gonna take it apart and see what kind of sci-fi bits I can get from them. Just from the cases, I'm really intrigued to see what kind of shapes we can work with here. Let me just take these apart and then we'll figure it out. Necromunda is a hive city, and each level is basically living off of the scraps of the levels above it. I feel like using junk like this, it's kind of in the spirit of the universe and of the game. And it gives you kind of some cool pieces to work with that you wouldn't think to 3D print or scratch build yourself. As you can see, I've been 3D printing some stuff. I'm actually super surprised how free and accessible some Necromunda terrain is, and I've been designing my own as well. Today, we're going to be building on this floor tile. They like snap into each other. So if I build on this, I'll be able to like make a full board. Don't do this stuff with regular clippers for sprues. This is for like copper wire and really heavy duty things. Don't ruin good clippers, and you can abuse something like this. So now that we have the pieces, we have to make it look like this was a structure that was built intentionally. And because we're using found objects, we have to be a little bit creative. I found the round part of the label maker and the circular bits for the Wi-Fi router. I decided to run with that round tower look for this build. There's a term in Star Wars called the greebly, and it's a small object that's non-functional, and usually it's an intricate detail, often repurposed, and it's used to make models or props look complex, realistic, and basically you're just trying to make something look like it has a purpose and it could function. This is really the beauty of using found objects for something like this. Having a bunch of wires and electronic components isn't just recycling and reusing, but it's giving you a lot of options. At this point, you might be wondering, why am I using 3D printed elements? And the main reason is the 3D printed elements bring it down to that 28mm scale. If you were playing a different game like Inquisitor, that's at a different scale. I think it's like 64 or something. And you would print these bigger and you could build the same thing pretty similarly. Or my other terrain board, I'm building a 5mm Flames of Orion board. And I print those elements at like half scale. And they really kind of help translate that junk into something that's like gigantic. So I came home from work today and I saw one of my friends pull up in my driveway and they brought a bag full of Warhammer. A lot of this stuff was minted, like this is 2003, but I saw a couple models that were 1992. Goblins, like really old things that I thought I'd never see in person, honestly. I had to spend several hours picking up my jaw from the floor because there's so much here. It's incredible. Yeah, so this is a 2003 Dalek Necromunda gang. This one still has the shrink wrap. 2 Escher gangs. It's so cool. The art on this thing is awesome. Today, I gotta finish detailing this. I spent some time 3D modeling some STLs. Weirdly, they fit in like perfectly in here and then perfectly here. So I can kind of snake in and out, I think, the walkways, kind of stair step them up. So that should be kind of cool. All right, I need to start building or I'm gonna run out of time. I feel like I have a good amount of greeblies, and a lot of this is back and forth, taking a step back and look for any flat, boring areas and fill them in. I had a lot of electronics that were from the inside of these machines, and so I feel like I was able to densely pack a lot of these details, and it's ready for the filth and grime of the underhive that we're going to add. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how this all takes paint, because I haven't really painted sci-fi too much, and I'm going to be trying something different. I primed everything in a dark hammered metal spray paint, and that's going to be the base coat for everything. And then I can just layer on top of this with dollar store paint to get the basic base coats. And I do a lot of overbrushing and stippling because I want this to go on irregularly. In my opinion, I feel like if anything has color in a Necromunda, like dystopian city, they're not using the best types of paints. So they're kind of just using whatever they can get their hands on. And I used industrial colors like yellows, oranges, and reds to indicate hazards of some sort. Because this paint is transparent, you can get away with maybe not doing a wash. I went on my Discord and my Patreon to get some ideas, Necromunda gangs, because I wanted to put their graffiti all over this thing. Kit Bash Chaos, which is a lovely guy by the way, gave me some of the first Necromunda gangs ever to be mentioned. Apparently it was like in the first Space Marine novel ever. I'm going to be using these paint markers. I've been using these to miniature paint, so I think they'll be like perfect for this. I'll just grab a color at random, and then I had to put in my own logo. I also put in Cursed West 28, which I think is going to have a Kickstarter soon, so check that out if you're interested. I also wanted to tell a history here, so I also painted over some of the tags. This one was suggested by Kit Bash Chaos, and this one as well. These were the first Necromunda gangs ever to be mentioned, and I thought it would be cool to kind of paint over them. And then I also did one for Hive Scum, and I think this one turned out pretty cool. This is one of my favorites. And then I also did one for Nemo. I've been talking to Steve a lot about Flames of Orion, and it's been cool to get to know him. And I did this little guy for Mage Works, and I thought that was a fun suggestion. And then I've been coming up with an idea for my own Necromunda gang called the Archive. And I think I'll tell you a little bit more about them when I start kit bashing that unit. Now the last step I'm going to be doing today is a really watered down rust wash. And this is just going to tint all the metal for that base coat to just be a little bit more brown. And because I'm using some cheap paint, it's gonna look a lot brighter while it's wet and then be a little bit more subtle when it dries. And I did a teal one as well, just to add a bit more of a battery corrosion look. and I think it worked pretty good. It was really fun experimenting with a new like setting and new build style, and this whole build was so cheap. I spent a couple like grams of sprue 3D printing stuff. Most of this stuff that wasn't free I got at the dollar store or at a thrift store, getting just junk. And I feel like the amount of detail I got was really great. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really having fun like exploring this setting, and I'm happy my patrons voted for me to spend a little bit more time like in this setting. So I've been working off and on the Scent Engine shell, and this company is a local company to me, and they've been really flexible and gracious with the amount of time that it takes to make something like this custom, alongside of making weekly videos as well. So thank you, Scented Realms, for sponsoring the channel and being patient. I really appreciate it. I think that's it. Have a good one.